Hello, welcome back to another video. My name is Gemma and today I am continuing my reviews of the Women's Prize for non-fiction, and today I am going to be reviewing The Story of a Heart by Dr. Rachel Clarke. So this book was one that I was pretty hyped for ahead of the announcement of the long list, and that was because the wonderful Jen the librarian had given it rave reviews after reading it last year, and so I had pretty high expectations going in. I also knew it was going to be a pretty difficult read, as the theme of this book is heart transplants, and it is focusing in particular on two children, a young girl called Kira and a young boy called Max. And the book opens with us having an understanding that Kira, a 9-year-old girl, was involved in a traffic accident and ended up brain dead, and her heart was donated to a 9-year-old boy, Max, who was suffering from a heart condition that meant he probably didn't have long to live. And so that is the setup for this book. And what Clarke then goes on to do is she explores the experiences of both families through the very traumatic events that they experience, but she also ties into that the history of transplant medicine and how it came to be at the point that it's at today. It also looks in quite a lot of depth at the experiences of the NHS staff that were involved in both Kira and Max's cases, from the paramedics on scene, one of which there was an off-duty sort of first-year doctor who was first on the scene to Kira's accident and the impact that had on him, to the nurses that were looking after both children in hospital, and the surgeons that performed the heart surgery on both of them. So we see the impact that these events had on those staff. I thought the other thing that was really, really interesting was that this case in particular was instrumental in changing the laws on donation in the UK. Prior to Kira and Max, or during Kira and Max's time, it was an opt-in system, so you had to actively say that you wanted your organs donated. However, around the time that Kira's heart was donated and Max received Kira's heart, there was a lot of noise in the media that was then amplified by this case, which ultimately led to organ donations being opt-out, which means that unless you specifically say that you don't want your organs donated, they will be donated, because a lot of people don't think about organ donation really, especially in their younger years, right? So it means that organ donation is potentially more likely to happen now than it would have been when Kira and Max were sort of going through what they went through. So there were so many things to love about this book. Ultimately, it was heartbreaking and hopeful at the same time. I think one of the things that Rachel Clarke did really well was she really put the emphasis on the families and their experience, and even in the case of Kira, the strength, the resilience that her family showed, the honour that they did to her by allowing her to save multiple lives, including that of Max, was really moving. And it, though I cried multiple times in this novel, in this book of non-fiction, including the first chapter and significantly towards the last quarter of the book, it is a story of hope and how these families just support their children through all of this hardship. How they support each other was absolutely just mind-blowing, really. The parents of Max, to watch your child degenerate to a point where they can't do anything, they're completely hospitalised, was heartbreaking to read, and how it can just come out of nowhere. You've got to help healthy, happy little boy one moment, and the next moment he's on a heart donor register, and how he dealt with that, and how his parents dealt with that, and how they sort of communicated with each other was so movingly written. I mean, just kudos to Rachel Clarke for the sensitivity that she showed in writing this book. But it really does show you the miracle that medicine is, and that our NHS is. These people are working in the NHS, they don't have an easy job, we all know that. But it's really interesting to see it from all those different perspectives, all these people pulling in the same direction, trying to save lives, trying to save dignity, trying to preserve love within families. It's just, yeah, it really, really gets you in the feels, and it is just incredible how we've come so far, really, in the last century, which isn't a long time when you think about it, but you go back to like the first transplants and how they were like, no, absolutely not, you can't transplant a heart, to where we are now, where, I wouldn't say it's common, but it's you know, it's more common than some other surgeries. But I think the raising of awareness of organ donation was really key in this book. I know that I absolutely want my organs donated. I give blood on a regular basis. I'm on the bone marrow transplant register. I do all of the things. But to see the difference that makes in people's lives, I think is really important. And I think that was probably one of the key messages that Rachel Clarke was trying to get across with her book. And so I actually don't have anything negative to say about this book. And if, like in the previous non-fiction book that I reviewed, if I look at the 3 key criteria, which are excellence, originality and accessibility, I would have to give all 3 of those categories 5 stars. I have never read a book on this subject, so it definitely ticks all the originality boxes for me. It was very accessible to read. The language was simple, even when we were talking about the intricacies of the medicine and how it has evolved. It was written in a way that was quite easy to understand, and the impact that it had meant that for me this had a high level of excellence. So this was a big fat 5 stars. I literally can't think of anything negative to say about it. I think everyone would get a lot out of reading this book. It really, really is something special, and yeah, I am very much hoping that this one makes the shortlist. It was exquisite. Highly recommend. Pick it up. If you are interested in my last review of a book from the Women's Prize for Non-Fiction long list, I will leave my review for By the Fire We Carry here by Rebecca Nagel, and I will see you all very soon with another one. Bye guys.